Well, first of all, thank you for coming to this workshop. So this one is a follow-on from the last one we did. So the last one was more about how to get started with your initial journeys, whether you're starting a side hustle business or project. This one is more about content and personal branding because it's one of the more requested ones. And obviously content and branding is very important. Obviously need to give a shout out to the sponsors and supporters here, which is the Wicker and More Deliverable Limited. So I'm just going to start this one with what personal branding actually is, because there's a lot of content about this. There's a lot of stuff out there about what this is and what it isn't. But for me, I always like to simplify things. And for me, the simplest way to understand brand is replacing that word with reputation. So just give me 1 second. I'm just coming in. Yeah. So instead of thinking it as a brand and all of this and that, just think of it as your reputation. What reputation do you have? Obviously, there's a personal brand, which is you as an individual, but a company brand is obviously different, and that's the reputation of your company. In other words, what do people think of you when you're not there in the room with them? So how do you build this brand? It's from what you say, what you share, and how consistently you show up. So the whole point of putting out content and building a brand is so that you have visibility and then trust, which then attracts people to you, to your project, to your offering, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So in the most simplest terms, the most important thing is to think of this more as reputation building rather than brand building. Why does content matter? I don't think I really need to put this slide on there, but I'm still going to go through it because in today's market, content is king. If you've seen any of my previous content, you will have seen me talking about the three things: attention, conversion, delivery. Delivery is the product or service that you have. Attention is another word for marketing, and conversion is sales, converting that attention. A lot of people, when they're starting out or whatever they're doing, they go straight for the sales and the delivery. They're trying to get sales straight away, but they're not getting enough attention to even convert anything into sales, let alone deliver the product or service. So this is something that I initially struggled with. Obviously, I talked to you about last time. When I started my law firm, I was fantastic at delivery. I was fantastic at being a lawyer, but I had no idea on how to market. I had no idea how to do any sales. So then I started focusing on marketing. How do I get attention? And obviously, I'm going to talk about that as we go through this. So really, if you haven't got attention, you've got nothing, especially in the online space. So one of the ways to get attention is content. And not only does content get you attention, it builds trust at scale, which is your reputation. And also content shortens the sales cycle. The amount of times you will have a conversation with somebody who's already seen your content and it's not even a sales call, it's just a conversation and it leads on to business is ridiculous. So this is why content is so important. It literally creates opportunities before you even ask for them. If there's no content, people don't know you exist. If they don't know you exist, you're not going to sell anything and you're not going to deliver on your project or your product or service. Nice and simple and nice and easy. Any questions on that? I doubt it, but if there is, just raise your hands or just start talking because my screen's actually gone blank, so I'm not going to be able to see. Cool. If not, we'll move on to the next slide. So this one is more about what content actually is. Again, there's a lot of noise out there about content. For those of you that were in the last workshop, you'll remember this slide because it was in that workshop. So I'm going to follow on that. So if you remember last time, I said, think of business, entrepreneurship, all of these fancy words. Think of it as one thing: trade. You are a trader, whether you're an employee, whether you're starting a business, a side hustle, whatever it is. You are a trader first and foremost. And what happened historically? Historically, we had the bazaar where there were merchants who sold products and they had to have customers to sell those products to. And they traded gold, silver, jewels, and they had the barter system. The modern era had the city and the town and the shops and the office. Again, they had a product or service, but then they need to get clients and customers, but they traded it for money. So you needed a market, you need a problem and a solution and a customer to solve that solution for, which is how you have a business. What these social media feeds are today is the equivalent of what the bazaar was back in the day and what the city or the town square was in the modern era. These are places that had people, and your profile, your social media profile, think of that as your market stall or your shop front. So the idea of your content is what the people used to do in the bazaar when they used to shout out, come to my store, whether it was spices, woolwood, samosa pakodi, whatever it was. They'd be shouting out in the busy marketplace so that people come to their stall. And that's exactly what you're doing with your content. The social media feeds are very, very busy. They're very noisy. They're very crowded. And what you're doing with your content is trying to make enough noise to attract enough attention so that those people in the busy feed come to your store, which I will be your social media profile, whether that's on LinkedIn, Facebook, or wherever. And the idea is for you to grab so much attention from that busy feed so that people start to know you, like you, and trust you so that they will trade with you. Hopefully that's very simple. And that's the game. People overcomplicate it, but that's how simple it is. Does that make sense? Any questions so far, or any thoughts at the moment? If you have, just fire away. Cool. If not, so the biggest question that I normally get asked about content is, what should I talk about? I don't know what to say. To me, I think it's more psychological more than anything else, which we'll go on to later on in this workshop. But really, you can talk about anything, right? There's no rules. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It's whatever you're comfortable with. When you're first getting started, you need to worry less about tactics and strategy, but get more into becoming consistent. So when you're trying to get consistent, it doesn't matter what you talk about. What you want to do is just start posting. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as you're posting something, because the biggest psychological block at the start is just putting yourself out there. So the number one aim isn't sales or whatever. It's just get that content out there, get over your own fear of putting yourself out there. But when you obviously, want to strategize and get more tactical about it, really, you want to keep it simple. So some of the things that you should be talking about is, what do you know that you can share? What are you learning, which is documenting the process. So those of you that have been following this Batley Entrepreneurship Club journey, you'll know firsthand that what I've done from the start is document the process. Whatever I did, I documented that process, whether it was setting up a meeting, going to those cafe sessions, creating an event, or something as simple as I've registered the domain name. All of that is content because it's documenting the process, and it's just a way of never having issues with what to post. The other things you talk about is, what have you got experience in? Now, this isn't always professional experience. It's not always the experience that you might have had with your job or whatever. It could be something you did at school. It could be something you did extracurricular. It could be something you did as a parent. Whatever it is, what do you have experience that other people might not necessarily have? And the big mistake a lot of people make is, when they know things or they've got experience in things, they think it's so basic that other people don't know about it. Whereas if you did actually share that, that would be very enlightening for other people. So don't think just because you know it and it's very basic to you, that it's not valuable to other people. The truth is, the more basic it is to you, the more valuable it will be to other people, because they won't have come across it, and it'll be easier for you to explain. And of course, also talk about your interests and hobbies. Another mistake a lot of people make with their content is always about business. It's always about transactions. It's always about money making. When you're building a personal brand, when you're trying to build that reputation, when you're trying to build that trust, it's more about you as an individual. Obviously, a company brand is different, but when we're talking about a personal brand, this is about you. It's not a personal brand if there's no personality involved. So don't be afraid about showcasing your personality. Now, you don't need to be an expert. Obviously, if you are an expert, it helps, but you don't need to be an expert. You can be 1 or 2 steps ahead of other people, or more importantly, just be honest about your journey. Another massive issue with content at the moment is all of these people that are faking and trying to make it. They haven't done things. They're trying to make out they're bigger than they are, and people can see through it. Whereas if you now do the opposite, where you be honest about your journey, I'm just starting this, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, you will actually get more support and more respect and actually more business from that than trying to make out you're already established and you know what you're doing, and so on. So any questions or queries there? Do any of you have issues with what you want to post about or what you want to talk about?
Zulfi, if you allow me, I think what you're saying here is spot on. When you're building a personal brand,
Yeah,
it's all about you as an individual, right? So what's my reason to buy or transact with you? Is how authentic are you going to be to your audience? And I think, you know, a wise man once told me, people buy people, right? They don't buy anything else. And that motto stuck in my life. So when I meet people, I engage people, I look at them as a person. Can I trust this person and what they're saying? And I think what's important when you're building your brand, you might not have, as Zulfi says, you might not have all the answers. You're starting in the journey, but think about it from an authenticity perspective. Talk about your values. What is it that you believe in? What makes you tick as an individual, and how are you going to bring that ethos into your professionalism? That's what's going to make that difference, because the people are going to remember that. And the other thing, which I should have said in the earlier slide, and it's when your trader slide reminded me, my parents, my father was a trader, right? He ran a corner shop, right? As many of your relatives or cousins or relationships did. And in them days, in the early 50s, location was king, right? Whoever got the best shop on the high street made the money, and the rest of us were in the corners trying to peddle it. Times have changed with the internet, and the beauty of it is it's actually become a free for all, right? In the sense of your market is the world globally. It's no longer just your locality. And the second thing is, yes, those with bigger advertising budgets, can win market share and can take more of their fair share space. But the question you always ask yourself is, how do I get up the Google search ranks without spending money? What's going to drive my ranking search? And when you start to look into those elements, content is king. Authenticity is the key here. Videos and testimonials are what Google likes you guys, because suddenly you're creating a library for Google. And I've been down in Google's office, and I've done a number of their courses, and I can tell you now, Google will push you right to the top of the rankings because you're bringing a library of information. That's the best kept secret, because the other guys are spending millions on search engine optimization and all kinds of advertising. So as an independent, as a business, your brand is going to be important, and how you use that is going to be critical, where you can win market share. So those are my thoughts, but I'm fully aligned with what you're saying.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Doing my job for me there, so appreciate that. Cool. Anybody else want to say anything or any questions? No? Cool. Okay. So the next slide, again, if you were in the last workshop, this will be very familiar to you. So another question people have is, how do you continuously have content? How do you know what to talk about? How do you keep consistent? And the way to have endless content is to do that personal self-assessment that I asked you to do in the last workshop. Most people will skip this session, but it is so crucial and so important, and it will make the rest of content planning so much easier. If you list down all of the challenges that you have, the obstacles that you have, the fears, the insecurities that you currently have, that you faced in the past, all of that now is content gold, because if you've had those challenges, other people will have those challenges as well. And if you can demonstrate either how you overcame them or how you're overcoming them now, you will basically attract a lot of people, because they will be vested in that journey, because they can resonate with it. Again, when we talk about who do you want to become, the ideal vision of yourself, all of these were the questions for the last workshop, but these are all elements that you can add into your content, because when you're talking about the vision for yourself, craft that as content, you will inspire other people to come and join you on your journey. What kind of life do you want to live? Everybody's got a different idea of what business is, how to live their life, 9-to-5 balance, work-life balance. All of that is a hot topic. You're just now adding your take on it, using obviously your own example, and that will inspire other people and attract other people, because it's a topic, again, that they're discussing in their own minds as well. The budgeting, that was more for the last workshop. But then again, the next list of all of your interests, hobbies, and passions, list of all of your skills and experiences. The more you jot this stuff down, the easier it is to pick that stuff out, turn it into content, and put it out there. And again, what do you want to learn and develop? Again, that might not seem obvious, but if you put out content that, I don't know if you guys saw it myself when I was saying I'm going to learn AI, and I started developing the Batley Entrepreneurship Club website using vibe coding only. I put that out, it got a lot of attention, and conversations did come off the back of it. So it's not always, again, about what you've done in the past, it's about what you're doing in the future. How are you documenting that process? And again, who can help you? Like if you've taken a course or a coaching program or any kind of program, talk about it, right? It's content again. And we see, ignore those cars in this slide that was explained in the last kind of workshop, which was more about the kind of life you want to live. So for those of you that don't have the context, when I was a lawyer, I bought all of these cars thinking I'm living the life, but I was miserable as hell. And then when I did that self-assessment, I realized actually the things that I want to do in life are not materialistic, and I don't even need that much money. So why am I living that life? But for the purpose, again, that's content for me. So I did put out content in the past about that. Literally anything and everything can be content if you think in terms of how can I share this as a story? How can I share it as a terms of educating somebody or inspiring somebody, or whatever end goal that you have with your content. And again, a lot of people talk about niches. You need to pick a niche. These days, there's a lot of content out there about people saying that you are the niche and therefore you don't need to pick anything specifically. I think when you're first starting out, it's important to have some form of a niche. Now, you don't need to talk about one thing. When we talk about it later in the thing, I recommend having 3 buckets: your main thing, a second thing which is related to your main thing, and then the third is more personal hobbies and interests. But if you pick a niche, it's easier then to create content for a specific audience. So again, this ties on from the last workshop where we asked you to make the minimum viable offer about your project. So who is your customer? In other words, who do you want to help and why? If you know this, you're going to create content for them, and that's how you're going to attract your ideal customer, ideal client, or whatever it is. What problem are you solving? You're talking about their pain points. Talking about pain points is key for attracting your ideal client or customer. What is your offer? Your pricing point. You might not always want to put your price out on content straight away, but you can talk about different pricing points if you want to attract a different level of customer. So if you've got an expensive program for your a high ticket offer, but then you've got like a course for people that might not have that much money, you can talk about different pricing levels. And again, your delivery method, how do you help people? A mistake, again, that a lot of people make, and which I used to make a lot back in the day as well, is we will create content talking about everything under the sun except our actual product or service. And that's a mistake, because if you're not talking about your product or service, you're never going to get the kind of sales or clients that you want. So don't always talk about just your product or service, but at the same time, don't neglect talking about your product or service as well. You've got to find that right balance, and you've got to give. Gary Vee says it: give. You use the content to provide value, but then don't also neglect the actual content that's going to get you the sale as well. Again, does that kind of make sense? Any questions? Any queries? Anything at all? No? Okay, cool. So in terms of beginner content types, basically just stick to what you know, right? You don't need to overcomplicate the process. Again, a lot of people complicate this process. They think too much about strategy, planning. Just stick to the basics, right? You're trying to build your reputation here. So you're either building a good reputation or a bad reputation. And again, this is another mistake that people make, especially the clickbait merchants. They think that they'll put out this clickbait content and they'll get a lot of attention, which they will, but then they're not taking stock of the reputation that they're actually building. Right now, I can name a lot of people that are putting out content and it's a lot of clickbait, but the only thing they're doing to me is making sure that I'm never going to work with them because of the way they are putting themselves out there, the clickbait content that they're putting out there. People will latch onto that and they will notice. It might get you attention, but it's not going to get you the relationships and the sales that you want. So that doesn't mean don't do clickbait, because I think sometimes it works and it can be used to achieve your goals, but don't always be this clickbait attention-seeking merchant that's always negative and hype and all of that rubbish, which I'm sure you've all seen. people get tired of it, and it's not going to get you what you want to get to. So again, beginner content types, talk about the lessons you've learned, the problems you're solving, behind the scenes footage, your opinions with the reasons that you've got for those opinions. This is important. Like, a lot of people stay on the fence when it comes to content. They don't give out their real opinions one way or another. But the thing is, the way the algorithms work and the way people's psychology work, if you're lukewarm, not a lot of people are going to engage. But if you are opinionated about a specific topic, you're going to get people that support you as well as haters, which is fine. But that gets you a lot of traction. So sometimes you do need to put your strong opinion out there, as long as you genuinely believe it and you can back it up. Where, again, a lot of people go wrong is they put out strong opinions, not because they believe it, but because they think it's going to get them attention, and you're going to get the wrong type of attention, and it's going to hurt you in the back end. Again, document that process. And for me personally, don't teach from a pedestal. This is, again, something a lot of people get wrong, where they start thinking they're high and mighty and they start talking down on people, and it happens automatically. A lot of people don't realize they're doing it, but they just don't realize when they're doing it. So it's important not to do that, because, again, you're going to put people off. Did somebody raise their hand? Siraj, go for it.
Yeah, just a quick one. You know, I find it quite daunting when it says lessons learned. So I mean, in relation to posting minimum 3 times a week.
Yeah,
that's quite excessive for someone from my mindset.
Okay.
You know, working in a professional capacity, trying
Yep.
to put the message out there about Islamic banking.
Yep.
On LinkedIn primarily.
Yep.
So I think posting, I guess it comes down to different forums. If you do minimum 3 times a week, from my perspective, I feel as if that's quite a lot personally.
Okay.
But obviously, I appreciate that. You know, that's just me. You know, from a very potentially unique perspective. Obviously, there's business guys out here in this audience who that might work very well for.
Is that because a timing issue, or because of the topics?
I think you sort of run out of topics, and you don't want to sound too monotonous as well with the, you know, kind of repeat sort of content you put out there. So it's got to be, you know, each content has to be a little bit unique to other sort of content you put out there, I think. Do you know what I mean? And obviously also the timing thing, because we've already worked literally 60, 70 hours a week anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But
so,
that, what you're talking about there, that's lessons learned, right? So if somebody's interested in Islamic finance and banking as a career, I'd want to know, how many hours are you working?
Sure.
What are you doing in those hours, right?
Yeah.
So lessons learned can again, it doesn't always have to be related to your professional job.
Right.
So if you go back to that slide here, if you make out all of these lists, you will have so much content that even 3 a day won't be enough.
Wow. So when you say so it's not like a long post, it's just like what?
No. So I mean, we'll get onto it when we talk about the specific platforms, but it does depend on which platform that you're kind of. So I think for you, it's going to be LinkedIn. But even with LinkedIn, right, not every post has to be long, because these days not everybody's there to read long posts, right? You've got to mix it up. So sometimes even a 3-line post will get views and attention and whatnot. When I say 3 a week, I would say that's the minimum, because at the end of the day, right, if you're not posting at least once a week, right, you're not really getting on anyone's radar. And it's going to take you time to build up the personal brand online anyway. But it goes back to that idea before, you know, the feeds are busy. Like, think of it, it's like you're in a bazaar, right? Everybody's shouting on social media right now. It feels that way. If you're just posting once a week or once a month, it's almost like you're whispering in a shouting market.
I see.
Yeah. So first and foremost, when you're first getting started, I wouldn't even worry about what you're going to post, which I mentioned in the last slide. When you're first getting started, it's just post something, and that's it. Get over the psychological hurdle of it. Post something, that's it. Again, 3 times a week, just post something 3 times a week, post something 3 times a week. Just get over that psychological hurdle. Once you've got over that psychological hurdle, then you can start getting more into the tactics. Okay, I want to speak about this specifically. I want to speak about that specifically, etc. But I would say, you know, do try to get 3. I know it's going to be difficult, but again, we'll talk about it later on. But just set aside half an hour or an hour or whatever it is. think of it as an important work task for your week. In this half an hour, I'm gonna only create content, and then you can schedule it for the week, right? You don't have to, post as soon as you create that content. Does that kind of answer your question or anything?
Yeah, no, it does. It does, Zulfikar. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Cool, no worries. Mobeen, you must have something to say?
Yeah, with content, do platforms, do they prefer authentic, real, unedited content, or do they prefer more of a polished version of do they prefer something a bit more professional and polished? Like both in terms of platforms and in terms of audience as well.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, don't worry about the platform, worry about people. So it's what do people prefer. So there was a time where, especially on TikTok and YouTube, where almost everyone was doing this very overly polished content, and it was, brilliant editing, and it was slick, but people got fed up of it. And then if you see what's happening now, people prefer the unedited, rugged, off the cuff type of content. So there's no wrong answer to that or right answer. It's depends on cycles, right? So when you're first getting started, I wouldn't even worry about editing. The first most important thing is just to put the content out there. The editing can come later on. A lot of people waste time on editing thinking that it has to be perfect. No, it doesn't. I don't know if, obviously Tahir mentioned the podcast that I've been on recently with Ranja Saab. He doesn't do any editing. He's just got AI to do it. And half the clips don't even make sense because they cut off on the wrong places, but he's getting tens of thousands of views. So over editing doesn't matter, in my opinion. And sometimes the deliberate mistakes can go in your favor because right now everyone's using AI, and something that looks over polished looks like it's been done by AI, which in my opinion hurts a personal brand because it's not really a personal brand if you've got AI to do the content for you.
Agreed.
So to answer your question, it is depending on whichever platform you're on, but when you're first starting out, authenticity is absolutely the key, right? I mean, obviously don't make yourself look like you've got terrible spelling and all over the place, but it doesn't need to be over polished. I think the more you can be yourself on the feed, the better it will be. Essen?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the point of what Siraj was just saying regarding LinkedIn posts, because I think, again, I think until maybe last month, I never really posted or done much on social media and stuff. And again, when I would just keep thinking, what am I going to talk about? What I'm going to talk about? But as soon as I got my first post out, there was a bit of a sign of relief as well, so that helped. And then it was just thinking about the next post. I always had that over my head. What am I going to do for my next post? And what I found now is, literally, I think maybe about 3 days ago, I spent half a day. All my posts I've sorted out for the next month, for the month of January. So I've set myself a challenge. I think I said that previously as well. Is I'm literally going to do 2 posts, which are organized posts that I know what the topics I'm going to be talking about. I know what days I'm going to release them, and then I will try posting and commenting here and there on small posts, kind of ad hoc. If I come across something or something comes to my mind, those quick little posts, they'll be different, but organized professional posts, I've just said to myself 2 a week, and then next, I've got them jotted down. Especially, I think, depending on the industry you're working as well, I think for yourself, it might be similar to mine as well. With the corporate and stuff, you don't want to overload and you don't want to keep putting posts out there, because I know a lot of people who do that, and a lot of my fellow people in my industry won't go approach them because they just talk, and they're just getting posts out there that they just see as when are they actually doing work and stuff like that. So there's that balance getting out there, and when you do it, so it just depends on the industry you're in.
True.
I'll make a comment, but I think Sal, you've got your hand up, so maybe you go first before me.
Yeah, thank you. Great discussion. Quite a lot to learn from. So appreciate everybody contributing. I had a question on the algorithms on some of these platforms. in the past where I have engaged trying different formats like video, carousels, PowerPoint. And to be honest, I had original ideas, but I used generative AI to draw up the content. What I found was sometimes the engagement boosts your views and how far the content reaches to your audiences on the network, as opposed to the quality of the content itself. So could somebody maybe highlight on what is the best strategy? Is it trying different type of media content to post out there, or is it just a regular presence on these platforms is what bumps your views and leadership, or is it the engagement from your network that that bumps up your views? So any guidance on that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Basically, the algorithms are always changing, and I hate it when people talk about, oh, the algorithms and this and algorithm and that. Most of them don't know what they're talking about because they don't know what the algorithms are actually doing. Very few people actually probably know, but because the platforms are constantly changing, it's very difficult to say the algorithm wants this and we're going to do that. The number one thing that you want to do is stay consistent. That is by and far the most important thing, staying consistent in terms of what you should post and what you shouldn't post. Think of this as an experiment, right? There's no do X, you're going to get Y when it comes to marketing or content or anything like that. It's, you know, you try things and you see how they go and you see what's working and you see what's not working. But even something that was working might stop working, and something that wasn't working might start working again. So again, it's platform specific. With LinkedIn, what I now do is I predominantly post either a video or an image post. To be fair, I did put just a text post the other day, and it did all right as well. But other people, they do PDFs and they do well. So it comes down to one, what are you comfortable with doing? What do you have the time to do? Like for me, I just don't have the time to create PDFs, even though I've got the time to create videos, but I enjoy creating videos. So it's more, what are you kind of strong at? What do you want to do? And what can you do that will make sure that you stay consistent? If you try to do all of these things, I'm going to do pictures, I'm going to do videos, I'm going to do PDFs, you're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to do it unless you've got a team. If you've got a team, it's a different ballgame. But when it's you, what are you going to be able to keep up with every week? So even though I enjoy doing video, it takes a lot of time. So I'm not always as consistent as I want to be. Whereas if I just did text, I could post 10, 15 times a day. But again, that's overkill. But and again, I enjoy, like I said, doing videos. So it's the things that you want to do is when you're posting, see what you're getting traction with. So in terms of the algorithm, what they say is the first kind of half an hour to an hour, if you can get people commenting and liking your posts, that will push it out to more people. So typically how they say these algorithms work is when you first push out content, it's going to show it to a bunch of people first. And if that first group of people engage, then it'll get pushed out to more people. If that first group doesn't engage, then it kind of dies out. And this is why a lot of people then go down that clickbait route and try to create tension in that first kind of 2 seconds, because that's what's going to get them instant reaction and pushes the content out to make it go viral effectively.
No, thank you. This is very helpful. I think now I understand why the clickbait approach kind of
it works.
Sometimes I get frustrated why people do that, but now I see why.
Oh, they do it because it works, right? That's how these algorithms obviously kind of work. So,
yeah.
But you know, there's a way to do clickbait which, you know, annoys people, but you can also do it in a way that it still helps your kind of cause as well. Like you don't need to go overly OTT, which is why I said in the last post, have strong opinions, but make sure you actually believe those opinions rather than, you know, just saying things for the sake of getting likes.
Okay, very clear. Thank you.
Tahir, did you say you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on Ash's comment on you know, his approach. That would be my advice to you guys: is actually know your audience, know who you want to target, and then look at the platforms. And so for you, Siraj, in the finance world, you know, who's your target audience, right? Are you going for the professionals? Are you going for corporates? Then LinkedIn is the right post for you. But if you're trying to move your way into, you know, residential mortgages, You've got a whole plethora of platforms you could be looking at. And the way I would look at it is I would plan out a 12-month schedule, right? Based on, let's take your example of the finance world, right? So there'll be key events from a finance perspective that there's a viewpoint from an Islamic perspective that you could share. Plot them on a calendar, right? So January, back to business. There's a need for finance-related matters. There's a budget, anything government-related. What's the Islamic spin on that, right? You could build that into your... So you start to build that storyline out, and then you can say, right, actually, there's 7 pieces of solid content a year that I need to get, professionally written. That's where my focus needs to be. But then how do I fill that gap in between? And that's where my social strategy could come into it. And that's that 2-minute video. What's your view on it? What's the comment? I do LinkedIn quite often, and quite often, because we own a few group companies, somebody else is doing the great work, right? And that's fine, because they've done a great job and they've posted it. They've got professional people to post it. All I do is I take their content and I put my spin on it. What's my view on what they've done, right? And then suddenly you find you've got likes, hints, people are commenting, but I only do that with my own companies. I don't do that for anybody else. So what I'm trying to say is, you can always get a seat at the table at content without having to be laborious at making the content yourself. Use it to your advantage. Same with you on the construction side. My social feeds, I have a passion on property anyway, but my social feeds are full of all these property developers and the people that are wanting to get you in some sort of a sales strategy to run a course or whatever. Your business that you've set up, brother, is absolutely on point to go in there, ride their wave of all the socials, and bring your view on why it's important to have somebody professionally managing those projects. Because look what happens on the worst case scenario. Bring some case studies, even on Islamic finance, right? I remember selling a house a few years back, and the brother wanted an Islamic mortgage, and he hadn't a clue where to go, how to do it. And it took me almost 18 months to sell my house to this guy, because he was in a process, and I just let it go. And I could have got him a Barclays mortgage in 24 hours if he wanted it. But he was so sure he wanted an Islamic mortgage. And again, knowledge is key here. So you've got to educate a lot of people on how that process works. So you guys have, both of your examples I've given you, there's so much content you can create, but it's thinking, authentically about it. So, I don't want to teach you guys to suck eggs, but I just listened to you guys and I got passionate about it, thinking, man, I can map this out for you right now.
Appreciate that, Tahir. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I've got a couple of blogs which I've posted and got ready as well. So inshallah, I'm touching on those points that you just mentioned. So inshallah,
look forward to that.
Inshallah.
No worries. Thanks. Thank you all for that. Does anybody else want to say something, or no? Okay. So just to finish off this slide, I would recommend minimum of 3 weeks. But obviously, if you haven't got the time for it, do whatever you can as long as you stay consistent. If that's 1 a week, go for it. If it's 2 a week, go for it. But the idea is pick something that you're going to stick to for 1 year, because again, a lot of people think they get happy about content. They get passionate about it. They start posting a few times a day, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they've given up. Post as long as you are consistent for the long term, rather than a quick bash and then getting worn out. Even posting 3 to 4 times a day, that will happen over time. I don't want anybody to start feeling pressure that they need to post 3 or 4 times a day. That is more once you've got time, once you even got help. I put a post out the other day about how Alex Hormozi is posting 350 times a week. Well, he's got a massive team behind him, right? So he's paying someone like 50-60 grand a month on content marketing and teams and whatnot. So you're not going to get to that level. There's no point comparing yourself to that level. You do what you can do with the capacity that you have. As long as you are consistent, that's the most important thing. And that will be different depending on each of your own circumstances. So the next kind of slide is, where should you post? Again, there's different strategies for different people. I've been on every platform and it's been a mistake. I've got to start on every social media platform. But the reason why I haven't really become an influencer on any single platform is because I've always had this scattered focus. So that's a mistake that I have made. And therefore, I would recommend that you pick one primary platform and then just have a secondary platform as well, just in case you get banned or whatever happens on these platforms. You don't know these days. Obviously, you got the main ones like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, etc. And this is where it's important for you to really plan out what type of content you want to do. Because if you are somebody that wants to do long form content, for example, like a podcast, then you're thinking about YouTube and your other podcasting platforms. But you can then obviously still use them, clip those clips up and have short form content as well. With Facebook, right? Facebook, there's a lot of mixed content on there. It's not really known for a specific thing. For example, Instagram, it's known for photographs, even though they do reels now. TikTok is known for short form videos. All of these platforms are trying to experiment other things, but whatever you are strongest at. So for me, like I like video, and therefore I'm always going to have TikTok as one of my main channels, even though videos done well for me on LinkedIn as well. I post a lot of photographs which do well on LinkedIn, but my Instagram, they don't do so well. So each platform has its own different way and different strategies, and therefore that's why I advise not to go on all of them, because if you want to get good at a platform, you really want to get good and spend the time, energy and effort on that specific platform. And again, this comes down to where is your likely audience going to be. Obviously, Siraj, people like you, LinkedIn is going to be obviously a goldmine, because if you're aiming for that type of corporate business type of clientele, they're going to be there. However, don't sleep on TikTok, right? People think TikTok is about dancing and all of this weird stuff. If you go on TikTok now, you'll see a lot of professional people on there.
Fair enough.
And the reach on TikTok, even though it's not as good as it used to be, can still be phenomenal. Yeah. And other people think of, obviously, there's kids on TikTok. There might be kids on TikTok, but they've got parents, right? So if you put a good piece on Islamic content, Islamic finance, they might go and have a word with their parents or their uncles or whatever. And they'll be like, oh, you need to get in touch with this person because they're talking about this, right? So it's not always directly the client you might not be getting towards. It might be somebody else. But yeah, so like video, obviously TikTok is always good. YouTube is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult platform. Tahir, obviously you've probably got a lot more experience in this, so you might have some other thoughts on this, but I found YouTube the hardest because it's almost a business in and of itself, right? Yeah. The amount of work that you've got to do, the keywords have got to be on point, the thumbnail has to be on point, you've got the description, and you've got the scripting, the actual editing. So although it's one of the best platforms, if you can make it work, it's also the most difficult platform, and therefore I wouldn't recommend that as your starting point unless you've got a short form strategy. Obviously they're doing well with their shorts now as well. So I find that good because I use the same video for YouTube Shorts, TikTok. In fact, I use the same video on every platform because I just find it easier. If you've got a team, obviously you want to tinker it and tailor it for each platform. But again, it depends on obviously what your strengths are. Are you a writer? Pick a written platform. Do you like pictures? Create pictures. Video, obviously go with video. Even with Twitter, right? People think Twitter, X what it's called now. I've won clients off Twitter and X, right? Even though I had like maybe 200, 300 followers, I've won clients off there because it's got people on there, right? So there's a lot of people on Twitter that have built businesses solely from Twitter. So don't write any of these platforms off. They all can work. So people think which platform's going to work, which not. They can all work as long as you put in the sufficient time, energy, and attention into them. Any questions? Any thoughts on that?
I think the only thing I'd add is on YouTube itself, if you do build any content on there and you have a website, you tag your YouTube video link into your website, Google will automatically push you to the top of the search because there's two pieces of rich content there. Your website on its own isn't attractive, but any video content that's in a public domain like YouTube, it'll push you right to the top or one of the top searches. So that'll help you in terms of later on as you're doing marketing for your brand.
Yeah, good point. Again, with long form content. So for example, on a podcast, right? Maybe you don't have the time to do individual pieces of content, but you can do a podcast long form episode, right? And then you can now use AI to chop it up into small little clips.
Yeah.
So it's not as difficult as it used to be. So you've got your one long form piece of content, but then you've got so many small clips that can go out onto your social media feeds as well. Obviously, we've got tools and software now where you can schedule the uploads and you can just use them to obviously post on different platforms. So it's not always you going to be individually uploading on each and every platform, which is very time consuming, especially when it's video involved. So there are tools and techniques to obviously make you more productive. But when you're first getting started out, I always say this to people because I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I don't want you to think about this and that and the other. The number one priority when you're getting started out is just to post. That's it. So once you've posted, once you've got into the rhythm of posting, once you've got over that psychological barrier, then you can start thinking about tactics and strategies and all of the other things. So 2 people have got their hands raised. Essen and Sal, one of you want to go first?
Sal, I did first, I think.
No, he's put it down. Maybe it was by accident.
Yeah, so mine was just regarding these different platforms and stuff. So signing up for them, and if you've got a website, obviously you can link to optimize your marketing and strategy and everything like that to get up on our Google search and stuff. You can link all of them together, but someone who's starting off and who doesn't have that background, I watched the videos, a few YouTube videos there, and some of them just got over my head. So it doesn't matter if you're not getting that right at the start. And can you, let's say once you do get a team or once you get a bit bigger, get someone to backlink everything, or do you have to make sure you get someone to set it up correctly now and then take it on? What would your thought be on that?
So personally, I'm not an SEO expert, but the kind of training that I've had on it is the better you get at setting up properly at the start, the easier it becomes, because obviously Google's going to be ranking your website based on obviously keywords and how relevant it is to people. So setting it up right just makes it easier going forward. And obviously with SEO, it's never going to be a quick game with SEO anyway. It's going to take time for indexing and ranking. And obviously a lot of people, what they do then is they'll create the long form article on their website, but then they're putting snippets on social media platforms to drive the traffic to it. So they're not necessarily waiting for the traffic to come from Google. They're getting the traffic from the social media platforms because that's where instant traffic is. But then whilst that's maturing over time, the more consistently you post those articles and content, then the traffic from Google automatically will start coming as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, cool. The other one that I've added on there right at the end is something called Noster, which isn't a social media platform. It's a protocol, and I do think that's the future. Now, I don't want anybody to go all in on this right now because it defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do here. But these are platforms that you want to look at in the future. So Primal is one app on the Noster kind of platform or protocol or however you want to call it. And these are basically open source, decentralized protocols, meaning obviously Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, they've got people behind them that can shoot you off anytime. On things like Noster, nobody can do that. There's no centralized authority. So censorship isn't going to be an issue like some of these other platforms are. And the way these are currently working, for example, on Primal, people are zapping me, meaning that they're sending me small pieces of Bitcoin. So in other words, I'm earning straight away. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but I'm getting sent Bitcoin when somebody zaps me. So if they like my post so much, they'll send me a zap and I'm automatically accumulating Bitcoin. And I think once this gets mainstream, there'll be no going back. I think everybody will jump on the bandwagon. But at the moment, it's not quite there yet, but it's something to think about in the future. But if you did go on it, the same principles apply. You're dealing with people, so you're effectively communicating with other people, building your brand, building your reputation. And then basically, you're building yourself another kind of platform on there. But for now, I wouldn't worry about that until you've got confident and comfortable with some of these other mainstream social media platforms where the attention already is. Cool. Any other questions? No. Cool. Right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about overcoming fear and resistance, because the truth is most people do not have a skills issue. They don't have an issue with what to post. They don't have an issue with experience. What they really have is an issue with putting themselves out there. They don't want, the number one thing is a fear of judgment. The reframe there for you is the whole point of you posting content is to be judged, right? So don't fear the judgment, because if somebody likes your post or says well put, that's a judgment. You don't really fear that, right? No, because it's a positive comment. What you actually fear is criticism or rejection, but that's part of the game, right? It's going to happen. So don't fear judgment. The whole point of posting content is to get attention, which is getting judgment of other people. If you're not going to get judgment, you're not getting engagement, and you're not really going to do anything on social media. The other fear is the fear of sounding stupid. In this day and age, the platforms are full of so much, nobody actually cares, right? I don't even remember what I posted 2 weeks ago, let alone what I posted 6 months ago or last year. By tomorrow, nobody's even going to remember what you have posted. So any fear of sounding stupid, forget about it. It doesn't matter. It's going to be forgotten. The other thing is this fear of being seen, this fear of being visible. Again, the whole point of putting out content is to get attention. If you're afraid of getting attention, then it's an oxymoron. You're just having this battle mentally for no reason. Get it inside your head that the whole point of you posting content is to get attention. Obviously, we've been trained and programmed thinking being attention seeker is a bad thing, getting attention is a bad thing. Not in this context. In this context, getting attention is the sole purpose of putting out content. Why? You're getting attention, but then obviously convert that attention into a sale, into a lead, into whatever it is for your project or service. The whole point of putting content is to be seen. And the other then fear is the fear of being ignored, which for a lot of people hurts people the most. It's not that they don't get enough likes. It's not that they don't even get hate. It's that they get ignored. And for that, I'd say that's just the price of admission, especially when you are starting out. You are more likely than not going to get ignored by the majority, if not every person on there. And the only time you're really going to start getting engagement is when you consistently show up. So you're going to put out content, you're going to get ignored. You're going to put out content, you're going to get ignored. You're going to put out content, you're going to get ignored. But then people are still seeing you and thinking, oh, it's that person posting again. I'm going to send him a like this time. Or she's posting again. I'm going to comment this time. So being ignored is absolutely normal and part of the process. Again, you're in a busy, overcrowded bazaar. You're shouting or whispering where other people are shouting. Being ignored is going to be natural. You just have to be consistent enough for people to start noticing. Any questions on that, or do any of you have any other kind of fears or any other resistance that you want to share, and maybe we can tackle it on this call right now? No? So none of you any fear or resistance about putting out content? Good stuff. All right, cool. In terms of a simple content framework, again, don't overthink this. People overthink this stage. When you're first starting out, the only thing you need to do is just post. But here's a kind of format template. Again, this is just a template. Don't use this. I've got to do this every single time. I've got to use this format every single time. It's not that. You've got to experiment. What works for you might not work for somebody else. So what works for me might not work for you. You've got to experiment and come up with your own style. But typically, it's good to have obviously a very strong hook, because without that hook, you're not going to really grab the attention. Having said that, I've put out posts where I haven't really had a strong hook and it's still kind of done all right. But that's after I've already kind of built that reputation and, people already know me and kind of do it. But when you're first starting out, obviously the strong hook is important to grab the attention, but then have some kind of story, right? People love stories. The better you are at storytelling, the better you are going to be at content. A lot of academics and kind of corporate people, the mistake that they make is they just deal in facts. It's like facts. Facts can get very boring on the feed. So if you get good at telling stories, you will always keep attention. And then obviously put the moral of what your post is about. What value are you actually providing? What is the point of this post? A lot of people put out content, but you don't really understand what they're trying to say or where they're trying to get. So just make it clear. And then obviously have a call to action. A call to action isn't always buy my product, buy my service, or whatever. It might be for a coffee, it might be for download this link, it might be whatever it is. Join this email list, whatever. Always have a call to action so that people know what the next step is. But I wouldn't always put a call to action in every single post, because then you might be seen as somebody that's just always trying to sell something. More often than not, it's about just giving value, and then a post where it's actually asking for the sale or a call to action. Does that kind of make sense? Any questions on that? Oh, cool. Okay, so your homework and your execution map for the next 14 days. I'm going to keep it very, very simple. Pick your 2 main social media platforms. So I know I said this last time and not a lot of people followed up. Obviously, and you did, so thank you for that. But I will be following this up again in the group, obviously in the WhatsApp or whatever. If you haven't joined the WhatsApp group, join it. But in 14 days, I'm hoping you will have done this, and I will be asking you whether you have done this or not. So pick your 2 main social media platforms, set up your profile. So think of your profiles as your shop front. If somebody is visiting your profile for the first time, what are they seeing? Do they understand who you are? Do they understand what you do? Do they understand whether it's for them or not? So use Canva to create some background graphics. Obviously, get a good headshot. If you haven't got one, your profile picture, the banner is important, and then fix your profile. View that as, people use it as a CV. I don't like the CV style profile, but that's a personal preference. That can be a bit too corporate-y. Just speak as if you're speaking to another person, right? So set up your profiles and then post 3 to 4 times a week for the next week. If you can't do 3, at least do 2. But I'd say at least 2 minimum in the next 2 weeks. So that's 4 posts altogether. The other thing that's important, especially if you're on LinkedIn, is comment on other people's posts, because that is content as well. And if somebody's got a large following and you comment on their post and you put a good comment on there, not like well done, great post, very insightful. If you actually put a thoughtful comment on that content, you will get views and people clicking on your profile from that piece of content, which is that comment. And it also helps the algorithm. So if you comment on other people's content, obviously it'll show the algorithm that you're an actual human, that you're commenting, although people are using AI these days. But it will help you with your content in 2 ways. One, it helps your algorithm feed. But secondly, the people that you comment on consistently, they will eventually start commenting on your content as well, because they now feel familiar with you as well. So commenting on other people's content is as important as posting your own content as well. Once you've done that, reflect, get some feedback. What attention did you get? What results did you get? Maybe you didn't get anything, it doesn't matter. See what worked, what didn't work. And then by the end of the 2 weeks, set a content plan for 2026. What does that mean? That means pick 3 themes for your next year. What are you going to talk about? What is the main thing that you're going to talk about? What is the backup thing that you're going to talk about? And I always like to have the third one more of a personal thing. Now, that doesn't mean give you a whole life story, but talk about personal things, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But I talked about, for example, my son playing football, me going to the gym. I've had more people approach me from that type of content than the actual business type of content. And for me, I think that's because when you talk about this stuff, you resonate more with people and they feel like they can approach you. Whereas back in the day when I was more corporate, more lawyer talk, it kind of comes across intimidating to some people, or they don't know how to approach you. But when you put something personal, people will speak about that thing and then it will lead to a business conversation, etc. So pick your 3 themes and then set a posting schedule. Whether that's twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is, pick something that you know you're going to be comfortable doing for the whole of next year, and then stick to it, because consistency, like I said, is the most important thing. Content is like seeds. I put a post about this the other day. Not every seed is going to bloom when you want it to bloom. It might happen in 6 months. It might happen in 12 months. Your whole point is to just post, plant seeds, and then they will come to fruition as they tot up in the future. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Any questions, any doubts, any concerns? Or is that okay? Yeah. Cool. So in 14 days' time, I'm going to be asking you all. But in that 14 days' time, I actually want to see the post. So if you do put a post out, just put it in the group. Say, look, I put my first post. What do you think? Give me some feedback on it. Okay, cool. On that. All right. So some of the biggest mistakes to avoid. Again, this is a slide I've taken from the last workshop. You are always going to make mistakes, especially starting out. So don't think about mistakes. They're all learning curves. But some things to avoid. The number one thing is expecting instant responses. The amount of people that think they're just going to start posting and they're going to get sales and they're going to go viral straight away, it's just not going to happen. Content is a long game. It takes time. The likelihood of you getting traction at the start is very, very slim. If it does happen, great, but don't expect it because it's very unlikely to happen. And the other thing is, don't compare yourself to other people. For example, you might be comparing to somebody who's been posting for 10 years. Like I've been posting content for 10 years, right? Other people, they've been posting content for years. They've got teams behind them. You might be seeing, oh, they're getting so many views. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter. Half of them might be using AI. They might be using teams. They might be using engagement groups. I personally don't like engagement groups. Other people like them because it helps them. Don't compare yourself to others. Play the long game. Secondly, again, comfort zone. A lot of people want to create content that they're comfortable with. Sometimes it's about coming out of your comfort zone and doing things that you typically wouldn't do, talking about things you wouldn't typically talk about, because those things is what other people would resonate with. For example, when I started talking about the fear of speaking, which I used the internet to overcome, a lot of people resonated with that and they followed the journey. When I started talking about building Batley Entrepreneurship Club, right, I documented every part of the journey, and I said some things that I thought maybe people are going to think I'm silly for saying this, but it doesn't matter, right? Get out of your comfort zone. That's where the growth is. The third mistake is this transactional thinking, right? Content, like I said before, it's like seeds you're planting. It's not, I'm going to do X and I'm going to get a sale. I'm going to post content and I'm going to get calls. I'm going to post content, people are going to start paying me money. It's not like that. Content is seeds. You're building a reputation. You're building relationships. And that's what you want to focus on. Relationships and reputation. Any questions on that? The next few slides are just some examples of what I've done in the past with some screenshots, which I'll walk you through. But any questions on that or anything at all? No? Cool. Okay. So these are some examples and opportunities basically of what's possible. So I post content without a team. I've got no backing, whatever. But last year I hit almost 2 million views on LinkedIn. But bear in mind, I've been posting content for years, so do not expect to be hitting million views on LinkedIn because it's taken me a very long time. I've given up so many times over the years. I've started, I've stopped. It is possible, but again, do not expect it. It's going to take a long time to get you to that stage. Having said that, in the last 28 days on Facebook, I've hit nearly 100K views and there's 12,000 pieces of engagement. I didn't even realize that, right? Facebook for me isn't my main platform. I just copy and paste stuff on other platforms and I put it onto Facebook. But it's obviously getting me some traction, and obviously I'm getting messages on there now as well. I'm sure some people that have joined BEC have come from Facebook as well. The point that I'm trying to paint here is every platform works. So don't get hung up on, should I be on this platform? Should I be on that platform? Every platform works as long as you are willing to put in the time, energy, and effort. And to go back to the post I was talking about, the point I was making earlier, it doesn't always have to be about business. I don't know how many of you were following me a few years ago when I was doing 75 Hard, but this was me literally posting my gym updates every single day. And then a couple of years after that, I did like 100 days in the gym challenge. So I was just going to the gym every day, lifting weights, and I was putting a post every single day. And what happened was people were commenting on the gym journey. So, for example, this person made contact with me to talk about the gym journey, but then he wanted to talk about buying a business. So I was talking about acquisitions at the time. So that content led directly to a lead, a qualified lead. Other people I built relationships with, which it started off them talking about 75 Hard. So other people started doing 75 hard after seeing me do it, and they connected with me, and we became good friends because of it. Other people use that as a way to contact me, and then we started talking about business. Here it's probably too small to read, but basically I've had people asking me for property transactions on LinkedIn, people asking me for what my services are. This one is wild. I literally got involved in a project which was the sale of 150 million pounds worth of F1 cars. So basically somebody said they've got this client that's trying to sell these cars. Do I know a buyer? I didn't know a buyer. I just went on LinkedIn, messaged people. The deal didn't go ahead, because if it did, I'd be retired by now, because the commission on that was brilliant. But basically, $1 million deals are possible on LinkedIn if you connect with the right people and you've got the right offer. But again, they're hard to convert, but that's a separate topic. The point here is you can find people that have high value claims or businesses, as well as those that are looking to buy courses or coaching programs, etc. Again, these are just about meetings and stuff that I've booked from LinkedIn. And then again, back on the point of reputation and relationships. So, you might be thinking that's more corporate stuff, M&A stuff, lawyer stuff. It's not. Basically, Dr. Hussein Salam is somebody that was following me for 6 months on LinkedIn, never engaged with my content that I knew about. 6 months after he's been following me, he sends me a message saying he's been seeing my content, he's interested to have a discussion, and he came onto the Minotaur video exemplar program that I had. So that was a program specifically helping people overcome the fear of speaking, putting out content. So this guy, man, he's got a massive, brilliant background. He sold a business for like 50 odd million, right? He's got so many businesses, happy talking in front of people, but just struggled speaking on camera. And therefore he contacted me. He went through the program. He's now started his TikTok channel, got nearly 8,000 subscribers on there. And if you can look at his content, he's got 100,000 views, 20k views, 6k views. So he's been getting a lot of views on TikTok, and he is predominantly speaking about mature topics. So anybody can make TikTok work. It doesn't have to be about kids. And then obviously NASA, a lot of you will know, NASA was the speaker at the last event. How did I build a relationship with NASA? The first time I saw him in person, his first words to me were, "You're that 100-day gym guy." So he'd been following my journey of putting 100 days in the gym post on social media. I didn't know he was following that, but when he saw me in person, those were the first words, and we connected from there, and I built a relationship with him from there. With that relationship, he's come on to be a speaker at the event I did. We went to London together. I put a post about that, and we're discussing several other opportunities in the background at the moment. The key takeaway that I want you all to take away is, don't think of content and personal branding as anything other than building reputation and relationships. That's all you are doing with content and personal branding. Contact and the next step. So obviously do the 14-day execution roadmap. Connect on WhatsApp. If you're not in the WhatsApp group, let me know. I'll let you join. Ask questions in the WhatsApp group. Send me an email, send me a DM, whatever. But please make sure you execute. The amount of people that come on programs like this or courses or things, but then don't do the work, it becomes pointless. This stuff does not work unless you do the work, and it's very simple. Just put out content, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Yes, Farida, any questions? Go for it.
Are there any sort of settings that we should have on the different platforms to make, the algorithms more in our favor or get ourselves more out there?
I don't think there's any specific settings, but I would set up depending on which platform you're on, just set up your profile like it says shop front, right? So the point of the content is to get attention, and then for people to click on your profile. If they click on your profile, do they know what to do? Do they know what you're about? Do they know it's for them? Is there a way for them to contact you, whether it's an email address, a phone number, or a link to book a call? That's all I would set up. In terms of the actual content, again, like I said before, this comes down to testing and tweaking. This is constantly a test and tweaking environment. There will never be a case where you're going to have the kind of formula nailed down and it's going to work forever. It's always constantly changing. But the number one thing that you can be sure about is just remaining consistent. Which platforms are you kind of focusing on?
Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yeah, so I think that settings wise, it's just obviously just set up the profile, but obviously reels are doing really well on Instagram and obviously posts, which is generally been known for. With Instagram, I would test different formats, so it doesn't always have to be a 1 minute long video or a 3 minute long video. I know a lot of people that just do 7-second clips, and they get a lot of traction just of 7-second clips. So whilst the settings, I don't think there's any real settings. It's more about consistently posting content and trying different formats until you find one that works for your audience. Cool.
I just had a just regarding, so obviously I've started doing LinkedIn and got a website and stuff. My next one is I'm thinking of TikTok, and when I'm setting up, is there something like, I think I mentioned earlier regarding linking videos to your website, or putting a link in or something, so things like that. Do I need to start try getting that right? Because at the moment, I don't know if I can do that at the moment. I don't know how complicated it is.
On TikTok, if I remember correctly, on TikTok, you can't put a correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong about this, but I don't think you can put a link in your bio until you've reached a certain amount of followers. I don't know if that's still the case. But I think it allows you, or it might allow you to put one link in your bio. It doesn't allow you to put a link in your videos.
Okay.
Unless it's a TikTok shop product.
Correct.
Yeah. So with TikTok anyway, what you're trying to do with TikTok is you want to get to 10,000 followers as fast as possible, because then they allow you to do a lot more once you've got 10K followers. Before that, it's a bit of a struggle. But you again, with there, your call to action then is DM me, etc., or whatever. Or you can just type out your website in the actual bio, and then those people that are interested will deliberately go into those kind of website links that you've got. Sorry, I'm just reading a message.
So for myself, so basically the reason why I'm doing TikTok is just to get in touch with a bit more of the domestic clients and stuff.
Yeah.
And that the small investors who are kind of really starting off. Because that, for myself, that's my target focus, because they're the one who get ripped off or are not quite sure on what they're doing, and they end up paying a lot more to builders.
Yeah.
So that's my target audience. Would that be my best kind of platform to go off and like do a quick 1 minute, 2 minute video of kind of explaining that?
Yeah, so basically, like I said earlier, I think every platform works. It's what are you comfortable with? Are you comfortable making videos, right? That might be a bit of a personal development journey, but in my opinion, TikTok works for pretty much every kind of niche and platform, because it's got people on there. And it's not what it used to be. Obviously, before it was about dancing and kids. I mean, obviously that still exists on there, but it's matured a lot more, and a lot of people are using it for business purposes. So I like TikTok. I'm a fan of it. I get a lot of views from TikTok, although not as much as I used to. But with TikTok, it's great at generating attention, but again, it's trying to convert that into a call, which is the tricky part, where you have to ask people to DM you or go to the link in bio. It's not like LinkedIn, where you can actually have the link in the post so people can go straight to wherever you're directing them to. So LinkedIn is great for that. So it's Facebook. TikTok requires a little bit more work to get them to convert, but in terms of getting the attention, it's absolutely fantastic.
And just to be clear, on your TikTok account, you need to have a business account, not a personal account, and your business account is free, and you can link that directly to your website.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Look into that. So mine's actually a personal account, and the reason I kept mine personal is because I use copyrighted music sometimes in my content. On the business account, you can't use the copyrighted music, and sometimes the music can get you the views. But again, that's a personal kind of decision that you make.
And just one last thing from me, guys, is how many of you guys are using AI, and how often are you using it? Because that's a journey. I think, Zulfikar, we definitely should do a session on AI.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable how much information and knowledge you could get. Just this exercise that Zulfi sent you guys, I just put it into ChatGPT and I picked it for your business, Siraj.
Okay.
And it's already given me like the next 12 months worth of content on the topics that we should be talking, riba, halal, finance, all that by month, by schedule, and that literally within a minute. Now, I'm not an expert in that field, but you could optimize that, fine tune that, and you've got yourself a skeleton plan of what you need to do.
Exactly. And you can interact with it, change it, swap it, whatever.
Yeah. And do that for TikTok, do that for all the other plans. We're, from a corporate perspective, we're bringing this in as the be all and end all of everything we're doing. We're saving time. We do marketing plans manually, which used to take us 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do the annual plan. Now it's taking us 3 hours. 3 hours of the actual build, where we now are using the people's resource to think about how do I optimize that further and using the time more efficiently. So, definitely use it, especially as you guys are starting your journey. You'll find it very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's what. I've just started using more of that, and again, it's been very helpful. Kind of planning. The only thing I would just add, and I probably made a mistake on one of my posts. I can't just copy and paste it. I was in a hurry. I was like, oh, today's my day that I need to get the post out, and I didn't have it ready, and I posted it out, and now I didn't get much traction on that post. But compared to some other posts, which I did again use AI, but made sure it was in my tone and kind of changed a few items. I've only started posting about 4 or 5 posts, and I've got about 40 or 30. Which for me, I was aiming for 10 likes and stuff, so I've been quite happy with that. The only post which then reached out was where I directly copied. So yeah.
No, obviously it's a good point about AI. Like, obviously a lot of people are using AI, and I think you should use AI, but definitely tweak the content to match your style. Like, don't just copy and paste what AI is posting. A lot of people now can tell whether it's AI or not, especially if you're copying and pasting directly. And for me, it's a put off. Like, if I see a post that's AI, my immediate reaction, I'll just ignore that post. I'm just not interested. I'm not only not interested in that post anymore, I'm then more weary about that particular person posting content, because for me now that reputation has gone, right? And the reputation that person has gone is this person is using AI. I'm not interested in AI thoughts. The reason why I'm following people is to understand people's thoughts, right? I'm following the personal brand because I'm interested in people's personalities. If they're just pushing out stuff from AI, I'm just not interested in that. So definitely use it, but make sure you tweak it to your style. Where you want to get to is with your personal branding content is speak as if you're speaking to people you would in real life. Like, that is the biggest compliment that I've been given, is that you're just exactly like you are online when they see me in real life. Now, it wasn't always that way. It took me a long time to get to that stage, but that's how you want to be. You want to be online as if you are in person, that authentic, genuine person, and people will connect with you on such an easier kind of way. So definitely use AI, but make sure you tweak it to your style. Because I use AI pretty much for everything now anyway, but I still make sure that I spend the time to tweak it to the way I want it to look.
Okay.
Cool. So just want to finish this off quickly with, again, what I do to stay organized. So I use a platform called ClickUp, and yeah, I think I need to do a session on this, but maybe we'll do it another time. But this is my content kind of calendar on ClickUp. So I've got it set up as my 2025 content calendar, and then each month, I obviously, whatever month we're on, I just create content for that month. I've done it for the whole year, but before September, I was using Airtable. So from Airtable, I moved to ClickUp in September, and the way I've got it set up now is, if you look at December, all of my ideas go up here in the idea stage, right? So whatever idea I've got, I'll just put a title there, and then I'll put the kind of text and the script that I want to talk about in this column. And then when I'm actually setting aside time to draft posts, I'll go into my idea section and I'll clean up the copy. If it's a video, obviously I'll make the video. If it's text, I'll create a text here. And then if it's ready to go to the next stage, I'll just click on, I've drafted it, I've recorded it. And then if I need to approve, if I've approved it or edited it, it goes into there. And then once I'm ready to, or once I've already published it, I'll then obviously click on publish. So what happens here is I've got it organized where the name of the post, I can put a hook there. I just put something that I'll remember the post by, and then the topic. So when I mentioned to you have 3 different themes, I've actually got many different themes, right? Well, I've got more than 3, but these are the things that I will predominantly talk about. I will not talk about anything outside of these core themes. I mean, these are still quite wide anyway, but the majority of things that I not talk about is the Batley Entrepreneurship Club. I'll talk about video making because one of my programs is helping people get confident on video. And other stuff will be like personal stuff or branding or business, etc. And then the next kind of column is what type of content is this? Is it a 3-minute video? Is it a text post? Is it an image post? Is it a short form video? Is it a long form video? Is it an email article, etc.? That's what that comment is. And then on this one is which platforms have I posted on? So again, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite when I tell you to pick 2 platforms. I'm posting on all of these platforms, but really what I'm doing is I'm just copying and pasting the same piece of content across different platforms. That's where the actual copy goes. And here it's just whenever I scheduled it for, whenever I post it for, due date. This is a bit of a redundant kind of thing. And then what month. So the reason I've got month there is because I can then filter each view so that it only shows me for this month. So for example, here, the filter here is if the month is not the other months, don't show it. And so it's only showing me December, whereas this one is only showing me November's post, etc. And so on. So I've got this organized to make sure that I stay on top of obviously my content creation journey. I can share this template. I'm going to create the 2026 calendar. So if you want the template for that, let me know. I can share it with you. This is what I use on a daily basis. But even if you don't use this, find your own way to stay productive. I would recommend some kind of content calendar, whether it's just a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, whether it's Airtable, whether it's one of the other platforms. You can obviously use actual scheduling tools as well. They've got kind of content calendars built in with them as well. But I use ClickUp for project management and all of my other stuff for a CRM as well. So it was just easier for me to put the content and stuff here as well. So you've got different views. So you can collect calendar views, actual book Kanban boards, and some of the other stuff which I don't actually use. You see, at the moment it's just me, so I don't have a team, so this isn't really relevant. But that's how I kind of stay organized with my kind of content creation. Any questions on that or anything at all now? Obviously, we're coming towards the end of the session, so it's open up to you guys.
Is that all just part of the, because I think I tried doing a couple of things. Is it all part of the free plan, or is this what, because they had, I think, 2 different plans. What plan?
I'm not sure on this one because I've got a paid plan. But what I did with this, I used an existing template on ClickUp and then I just tailored it for myself.
Do you link it to your phone as well, just so you can get notification of what you're meant to be doing on that day or on that week? Or
I personally don't link it to my phone because I try to separate my work life to the personal life. But like, I don't want on my phone all notifications are turned off. I don't have any notification on my phone. That's just a personal preference. But here, obviously, I've got all of my tasks are there anyway. So for this personal task or whatever, all of my tasks go into my task list on there. But this is specifically, obviously, just to do with content.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions about anything at all?
No.
Are you all clear? Or are you nothing at all? Really? Okay. No worries. Thank you for being here. We've gone past the time limit. Obviously, I know it's a holiday period, so I appreciate you guys coming here. I hope you did find value from this. So as ever, I always need the feedback. The feedback is the most important thing for me, not just for the reporting that I have to do for Wickr, but in terms of what I know what to do for future sessions. So I will follow this session up with an email probably tomorrow or the day after, asking for feedback. It will be anonymous feedback. I have to collect the anonymous feedback. So please feel free to tell me what you found useful, what was not useful, what could be improved upon. There is one question which does ask for the first part of your postcode. I know it's annoying, but I have to collect this data. It's completely anonymous. So please do fill in that feedback form. Get involved in the group, share your kind of content that you're putting out there, ask for feedback. That's what the group is for. I've got your message, Siddharth, so I will add you into that group. And yeah, honestly, guys, content at first it is daunting. Like the amount of social anxiety that I used to have. I've talked about this a lot. I had a fear of speaking, visibility, everything. I started off being anonymous online, and then I started putting my name out there, and then I started creating long form content, and then I started creating videos. It's daunting at first, and now I just don't think about it. It's just so second nature. You can get to that stage. It's just a matter of just doing it. So for now, it's just putting out the content. That's it. Once you've got comfortable putting out the content, then start thinking about tweaking and strategy and tactics. Yeah, Asan, go for it.
Yeah, just a quick one on that form. I think there was asking for local authority as well. I think there was a question. I can't remember what I ended up putting on there, but obviously that was only related to Batley. So
yeah, just pick whatever the options are on there. If it's not on there, then just I think there's one that says other or something. If not, just put whatever.
Yeah.
That won't matter too much, as long as the kind of postcode is there. But
yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Well, once again, thank you guys. Like I said, any questions, feel free to hit me up. And obviously, we've got the event happening next month. I hope you all can come to that. We've got some high-profile guests coming. Obviously, I know you're in London, so it might be a bit of a trek.
You never know. You never know.
To be honest, there are people coming from Milton Keynes, right? So we did have people come from London for the previous events. But yeah, do you know about the event, Siraj?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that one, and I am planning more workshops. Hopefully, other people will deliver those workshops. People more qualified to deliver those workshops. So if there's any kind of workshops that you guys want to deliver, just hit me up. I'm more than happy to arrange it. Hopefully, we'll have one more in January before the event, if not two, and then there'll be further workshops after the event as well, inshallah. Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you
very much.
Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Everybody, take care. Islam.